Welcome to a brand new video. In today's video, I'm going to take you behind the scenes as we film 3 different Instagram Reels. Now, what we're going to be doing is making 3 different types of Reels today so that you have a little bit of a better idea on how not to end up pigeonholed and making the same content over and over and over again. Now, there are probably about, I'm going to say, 50 different types of Instagram Reels and short form video formats that you can make. So the fact we're only doing 3 today just goes to show you we got a long way to go. But the 3 we're gonna do are probably the most approachable and definitely the most often used. So these Reels are gonna be a listicle, a heavy text one-shot frame, and then a rant. Now, if you wanna see other types of Reels or wanna have a better idea about what's possible to make, feel free to comment down below. We can turn this video into a bit more of a series. Kind of the idea I have with this channel is just picking these core buckets to talk about and then building them out gradually, because a lot of what I want to bring onto this channel is things that I'm using on the daily. Okay, now the first reel that we're gonna make is called the listicle. Why it's called the listicle is probably pretty straightforward. Usually these are the reels that you're gonna see that are like 3 tips for a better X, or here's how to do Y. It's gonna be 3 steps basically, can be 5, can be 8, but usually it's 3. And it's going to be walking you through the process. So now I usually like to make these by making them a tutorial, typically photography related, because obviously I'm a photographer, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. Today's video, we're going to be calling 3 things I always do when I'm shooting cityscape photos. We have a crazy shot that I love coming to at sunset with the Beaver Tails shop right by the water. If you know Toronto, you'll know that there's like this red house right by the water that is pretty iconic at this point. It used to be some coffee shop before, but now it's a beaver tail place. But it still looks just as good at sunset. So we're gonna be grabbing a cityscape photo of that and basically doing the 3-step reel. So now, since we are taking photos, let's go get to the photo spot for the first part of the reel, which is where we're gonna show how to actually use the filter that I've got on my camera lens. Now, to start off the video, you wanna have your engaging hook, obviously, but the first tip also has to be very engaging. And the reason why is because you're still trying to capture attention. It's really easy for somebody to swipe off if you're not providing value in the first 5 to 8 seconds of your video. So the first tip with this filter is something that's probably unique. A lot of people don't really use filters. Maybe it's something like if it's a new filter or something that you still need to try, you want to make sure to make a point of that and put that one first. If the other ones are maybe a little bit more boring or simplistic, that probably more people might know. This way you're keeping your viewers hooked for longer and just upping that video retention because you're actually genuinely helping them. So the photo spot is right at the end here of this doc. So we're gonna go ahead, shoot that first part of the video. These are my 3 essential tips for better city photos. The first tip is always carrying a polarizer. This is because buildings typically have reflections on them, and a polarizer helps me cut reflections on those buildings and just makes the photos look that much nicer. Now, for that first photo, we're gonna use the locations photos for each of the tips. That way we keep interest in the video. So taking the photos at location 1, we're then gonna walk to the complete other side of the harbor to get a similar photo of that red house to illustrate the second concept. This way, you're just always keeping things fresh. I find a lot of the times when you're using a 3-part formula reel and you're keeping things stagnant, it gets boring really quick and people swipe off. So always be moving, always be cutting different angles and really changing things up. Now for context, that's where the last photo was taken. We walked all the way around, back, and now we're here. Now the second tip for today is actually fairly straightforward. All it's gonna be is talking about focal length. So you can get that clip easily and quickly, because when you get to tip number 3, that's when you want to make things a little bit more interesting. So when you're making your reels, you can think about the ebb and flow of the excitement of the reel itself so that you can just manage people's expectations. So starting a reel at a high, obviously 3 tips, getting people interested. First tip is that bigger tip, it's more interesting. The second tip is maybe something quick, a little hack that somebody can like snack on so that it's not just drawing out the video longer than it should be and you're then losing attention. And then the third tip, you can level up and get more creative. So this shot right here is actually really cool because you can take advantage of like a tighter-ish wide shot. And what I mean by that is like a 24 focal length rather than a 16. You get less distortion out of the shot and you still get everything in frame. So that's the second tip. We walked on over here because again, continuing on with that visual interest, and we're gonna grab that clip now. Second tip is to try to always shoot with a wide lens. Why is because a lot of the times in the city, you don't have a lot of room to grab good cityscape photos. And with the red house behind me, all we're gonna do is get our focal length at 24 millimeters. This way we can get a lot more of the scene in frame. So that part about focal length, we're done, we got the shot. The third one, we're gonna find ways to maybe frame things up a little bit differently and get creative to just make sure somebody watches towards the end of the video. Leading us to tip 3, which is to get creative with your compositions. Use natural elements like this leading line that points towards the red building in order to help guide attention towards your subject and create a more interesting photo. All right, I found a pocket of shade because I'm cooking in the sun right now, but I want to talk about the 3 best practices for listicles. Now, if you notice, there's a few things I did with listicles that you really need to add in to make sure they're more engaging. The first of which is that strong hook that we talked about. You need to make clear what your viewer is going to get out of watching your content in the first 2 to 3 seconds of actually seeing it. This is something you'll probably see a lot of social media coaches talking about, but it's really important for the listicle format in particular. There are other ways to hook somebody and engage them with other formats like we'll talk about with the next 2 tips, but for the listicle, it's all about those first 2 seconds and how you can communicate value. The second thing is having captions and strong text breakers. So for tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, you want to have big words on screen that just communicate that the video is flowing and continuing to move. I like to add ... at the end of my tips sometimes as well, because it just kind of creates that sensation that there's more to come, and it's going to keep people hooked on the video, paying attention, just because of those little sort of subtle mental things that you can do to keep people's attention for longer and up that retention. The third thing then that you want to do is at the end of the video. Now, we're going to make a format that has a strong CTA in it coming later in the video, but for listicles, you can also add CTAs. I generally choose not to, because I find with listicles, if you add the CTA, it sounds salesy and people are more likely to swipe off of it than to engage with your profile. So if you're just providing value with the listicles, they're going to totally boost the amount of views that you're going to get on that listicle, rather than saying, hey, and follow for more camera tips or follow for more reels guides or whatever it might be. People don't generally like that. They want to have content for free. Obviously, we know this. So try and make it that way, and you'll probably get better results on your content. So we're going to go ahead and make the second reel of today, which is going to be that POV static shot with an aesthetic background and text on screen, because sunset's coming and I want to make sure that we can get that shot. Okay, so the next reel we're going to film is now actually pretty straightforward. And this is the heavy text static framed shot. I'm going to put an example up on the screen that I did a little while ago and show you how to actually get one. So with these videos, all you really want to do is find an aesthetic location and then overlay text on top of it that provides value. Now this text could typically be text that could be shot in like a 3-tip video or another listicle, but instead you're just putting it in text format. For example, a lot of these videos in travel are like someone pondering off like the side of a mountain, text on screen, POV, it's your first time in the mountains and you never regretted leaving the city in the first place. I don't know, something along those lines that you could take advantage of. But they work really well because people are forced to basically read the text as the video is playing in the background. And if you do these well, they typically get shared and saved a lot, which is great because they're fairly easy to do. All you need to really find is an aesthetic location that grabs attention and then leads someone to read the text. You can't really make these things if they're boring. A lot of people will try to do them like in a condo so that they don't have to leave, or maybe in an easy spot like at their work desk. That used to work. Now you really got to find ways to level it up. So that's why we're here, because this spot behind me is leading up to the CN Tower. And when I position the camera on the ground and take a seat, basically leads up to the CN Tower, and then you can overlay text on frame, maybe put a nice gradient so you can see the text better, something along those lines, and then you have your shot. So I overlaid that as we set it so that you saw the reel, but I'm gonna teach you how to compose the shot. The goal with a lot of these is to actually have a rule of thirds going on. So we want our subject sitting here so that as it leads up to the CN Tower is also following the rule of thirds best practice. The goal is to basically make sure you have something interesting in frame at all times, so that when you sit down and let's say we change this perspective to vertical, it's gonna lead up to the city and give you a nicer shot. right, and that will take us to the last style of video, which is the content rant. Now, you're gonna see these pretty much all the time from a lot of people that are more in the lifestyle niches. A rant is a great format because it just lets you literally pick up a camera, walk around, catch attention, and speak your mind. So the way you're gonna wanna make these feel organic is to literally do what I'm doing right now, walking through a busy city. Maybe there's a lot of visual interest behind you, and then picking a topic and just going off of it. And you can do this for any niche. You can do this for personal problems in your life. Maybe you're stuck in traffic, you put your phone up on your dash, and you just really just start speaking. That's probably the most popular way to do it, especially if you're like a fitness influencer. You might be on your way to the gym. You're gonna talk about your workout and maybe talk about some annoying things that are happening in the gym. Or if you're a comedian, you can really just start making fun of everything and poke fun at it. For me, as a photographer, I could probably talk about something about how people don't take enough photos. So I'm gonna put up my rant that I'm gonna film right now on the fly, and then we can talk about a few best practices you can do when you're making your rants to make them better. Can we just talk about for a second how not enough people are really taking time to make photos anymore? They're just going to these locations, trying to take a photo for Instagram or for social media without actually making a photo to remember their trips by, or really just appreciate locations more. As a photographer, it does bother me just a little bit to not really see people making photos for the sake of making them and enjoying the process, but just because I know it's gonna end up on social media. It can be a relaxing thing. And for anybody that says that photography takes you out of the moment and doesn't make you appreciate things, that's definitely not the case. I think photography just helps to slow your life down, helps you really look for little details that you maybe wouldn't have appreciated if you didn't have a camera in your hand, and really just helps life be more memorable. So if you agree, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on if you should carry a camera with you or not, and if we should stop making photos for social media and start making them for ourselves. All right, now the rant is pretty straightforward, but if you notice, there are a few things I did in there. Now, I'm not saying this is a viral rant that I just made, just really doing it to illustrate the point that you can have a rant done really quickly, share it with your followers, and see if you can engage them more in a way that's authentic. But there are best practices to it. The first one is a strong hook. Obviously, you heard me talk about that with the first portion of today's video. A hook with a rant is more relatable. So think something like that's more spontaneous in the moment. I started the rant by saying, can we just take a minute to talk about, or can we just talk about this for a second? Or just to make it look like it was off the cuff and on the fly. You can pre-plan your rants, like it doesn't really matter. But I think the fun part and the engaging part about a rant is that it does look like it was shot in the moment. So that's the first thing. The second thing is continuity. You really have to be quick on your feet. You can't be shooting rants in different locations expecting them to look real. It has to be in the same path. So I picked a straight line to walk down, let all the thoughts come out on that particular topic, and then that way it just looks like one continuous thread that you're really passionate about. The third thing is a call to action. So yes, every video should have a strong call to action in it, but rants in particular should evoke an emotion, and you're more likely to get a response out of your audience if you put it at the end. So obviously, let me know your thoughts about X issue, which is, should we carry cameras with us and actually, use them for the sake of making art with? That's the CTA. And I'm looking to really find the people who are passionate about this to comment down below so that I can re-engage them afterwards or do something with who engages. All right, and with that, the sun is going down. So that is gonna wrap today's video. If you want more social media tips and tricks on the channel, I'm happy to make more videos about that. If you like this run and gun format too, let me know. This is something that I'm trying to still figure out. I usually have a videographer with me, but I'm trying to test the difference between sort of more organic like this, we're hanging out, filming videos, versus having a videographer making it more pro. So let me know your thoughts. I'm so curious what you guys are thinking about these videos. There's been a lot of new people in the channel recently and I appreciate it. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you all in the next one.